Ammo's cheaper right now than I've seen in years. And for a lot of shooters, it feels like the perfect time to stack deep. But if you jump too fast without looking at what's really driving these prices, you could end up spending money the wrong way and regretting it down the line. Hello everyone, this is Ted from Line45. Today, I'm going to explain why this dip in the ammo market isn't just a green light to buy, but a rare chance to build a smarter long-term plan that'll save you money and keep you better stocked when things turn again. Before we dive in, do me a solid. Smash that subscribe. Tap the bell. Hit all the dang buttons down there. You don't gotta, but it keeps this train rolling and lets me crank out more of this wild gun talk for y'all. Alright, enough of that. Let's get back to it. The rare window. I've been buying ammo long enough to know when something feels off, and right now it does. Prices are lower than I've seen in years. You can walk into a shop or click online and find 9mm sitting around 20 cents a round, shelves actually stocked, and no clerk giving you the one box per customer rule. On the surface, it feels like the perfect time to max out the credit card and stack cases in the garage. But here's where I pump the brakes. If you rush in without looking at why it's this cheap, you're probably going to spend money the wrong way. The truth is, this dip isn't magic. It's the result of manufacturers overproducing back in 2023 and 2024 because they expected another panic surge that never came. Add to that the massive government contracts keeping the machines running, like that $635 million expansion for the Army's ammo plant, and the civilian market is drowning in surplus. That's why we're staring at cheap shelves today. I've seen this pattern before. Guys buy blind, pile up ammo they don't even shoot, and then 6 months later, they're strapped for cash when prices shift again. For me, this isn't the time to panic buy. It's time to be smart. Build a plan, figure out what calibers you actually use, and think long-term instead of chasing deals. This window we're in right now is rare, and if you play it right, it'll set you up for years. Why ammo got so cheap? So let's get into why prices are sitting this low, because it's not random. After the panic years, ammo makers went full throttle in 2023 and 2024. They added shifts, expanded plants, and expected us to start hoarding again like it was 2020. Problem is that big panic never showed up. Civilian demand stayed pretty flat, and by the time shelves were packed, buyers just weren't in a rush. The result? Warehouses stacked to the roof and prices sliding down. At the same time, the military kept pouring fuel on the fire. The Army locked in massive contracts to boost production, including a $635 million expansion at the Iowa Army ammunition plant and upgrades at Lake City to pump out 6.8mm for the new service rifles. That money kept the machines running even when the civilian side slowed. And when production lines don't stop, the extra has to go somewhere, which means it trickles back to the commercial market. That's how you end up with cases of 9mm going for 20 cents a round or two, 2-3 dropping more than 30% compared to last year. I've been through these cycles before, and what we're looking at is a textbook oversupply. Manufacturers built too much, the government contracts kept lines hot, and now dealers are cutting prices just to clear inventory. It looks like a gift, but it's really just the market correcting itself. And the crazy part? Even with ammo this cheap, a lot of shooters are still holding back because of what's happening with money and debt. The money squeeze on buyers. Here's the thing about ammo being cheap right now. A lot of folks still aren't buying because their wallets are hurting. Credit card debt in the U.S. is at record highs, sitting at around $1.2 trillion, and the average household is carrying more than 10 grand in balances. That's insane. Add in interest rates hovering above 20% on most cards, and people are literally paying hundreds a month just to keep their heads above water. When you're staring at that bill, dropping a few $100 on cases of 9mm feels a lot less important. Inflation hasn't helped either. Since 2020, the cost of living has jumped about 20%, while wages haven't kept up. Groceries, gas, rent, everything's higher, and ammo money turns into grocery money pretty quick. I've had buddies tell me they still watch the sales, but instead of buying 3 cases at once like they used to, they'll grab a couple boxes and call it good. The days of panic hoarding on a credit card are over for a lot of shooters. I can feel it myself. Back in 2016 or 2020, everybody was stacking deep when things got shaky. This time around, people are cautious. They're watching their bank accounts, making sure the essentials are covered, and then maybe grabbing ammo if the price is just too good to pass up. And that mindset is part of why prices keep dipping. The demand just isn't matching the supply. Next, I'll get into why that old panic cycle isn't firing anymore. Fear fatigue, and the end of panic buying. I've been through enough election cycles and crises to know how ammo markets usually react. Back in 2008, when Obama got elected, shelves cleared out overnight. In 2016, people bought heavily expecting Hillary, and in 2020, the pandemic mixed with riots sent ammo prices into the stratosphere. That cycle became so predictable that manufacturers counted on it, and gun owners almost trained themselves to panic buy at the first whiff of trouble. But here we are in 2024 and 2025, and it feels different. We've had wars overseas, we've had an election, and we've had all the political chatter you'd expect to light the fuse. And yet, the panic never came. Shelves stayed full, cases stayed cheap, and a lot of shooters just shrugged. I call it fear fatigue. People got burned buying $1 around 9mm a few years ago, and they're not eager to repeat that mistake. I know guys who still have unopened cases from 2020 sitting in the basement. When you're already stocked, and you felt the sting of overpaying, the fear factor just doesn't hit the same. That shift matters because it breaks the old boom and bust cycle. Without panic buying to drive sudden demand, ammo makers can't rely on those wild spikes to bail them out. Instead, prices just keep sliding with oversupply. For shooters like us, it's a good problem to have. But it also means the smart play isn't hoarding. It's building a steady plan. And that's where strategies like tiered stockpiling and reloading come in. Ammo strategies that should work for you. Here's where I shift from just talking about prices to what I actually do when the market looks like this. Buying random boxes, because they're cheap, might feel good. But it's not a plan. I run a tiered system that keeps me covered without draining my wallet. Tier 1 is my carry ammo, the rounds that stay loaded in mags and go wherever I go. Tier 2 is my training pile. I keep about 6 months of what I normally shoot so I can hit the range consistently. Tier 3 is my long-term reserve, the stuff I hardly touch unless supply really dries up. This way, I'm not digging into my carry ammo just because I wanted an extra Saturday at the range. Reloading is another move I swear by. If you're willing to invest in the press and put in the time, you can save 50 to 60% depending on the caliber. I've got buddies cranking out 9mm and 223 for a fraction of retail, and when shelves go bare, they keep shooting. That kind of independence is huge. I also stretch training with tech. A Mantis X on the pistol, or even just structured dry fire, lets me work fundamentals without burning through live rounds. And when I do buy, I buy smart. Bulk orders online almost always beat grabbing a couple of overpriced boxes at a gun show. Pay attention to trends too. The 223, for instance, has dropped more than 30% this year, while 10mm actually went up. Store it cool, dry, sealed, and rotated. That's how you build a real system. Next, let's look at the bigger picture and why the military side of this matters more than most folks realize. The bigger picture and what's next. When I step back and look at all this, it's clear the civilian market isn't operating on its own anymore. The military side of the house is now directly tied into what we see on the shelves. The Department of Defense has been throwing massive contracts at ammo makers, from small caliber to artillery. Lake City Army Ammunition Plant, for example, is being modernized to produce the Army's new 6.8mm rounds for the Next Generation Squad Weapon Program. On top of that, the government approved over $600 million for new facilities at Iowa's plant to keep artillery production running at full tilt. Those contracts keep machines hot year-round, and that overflow production is part of the reason shelves are stacked for us civilians. But here's the catch. That stability only lasts as long as the government money keeps flowing the way it has. If demand overseas spikes, if a new conflict pops off, or if budgets get reshuffled, that balance could flip fast. We could go from ammo's everywhere to good luck finding 223 at a decent price in a matter of months. That's why I don't look at these low prices as permanent. I look at them as a window. For me, the takeaway is simple. Enjoy the cheap shelves now, but build your system so you're covered when the cycle turns again, because it always does. Ammo has always been feast or famine, and right now it's a feast. The smart shooters use it to prepare for the next famine.